behind there as well. That entire right-hand side or right camera of where he's shooting should be completely clear of any personnel, and he should be shooting at least 4 feet off to the right of that camera, and he should be at least 21 feet away.
Okay.
One more. I forgot to recoil stuff. No, right away. Let's reload. Here we go.
So, Helena, hi.
How many movie sets do you think you've worked on in your career?
100.
That conduct that we're seeing on the part of Mr. Baldwin, is that typical conduct from an actor on a movie set?
No.
Why not?
Well, number one, he's basically instructing the armor how to do their job at that point, telling them that we should have had the gun a second reload, hurry up, give it to me, fast. This is that moment. This is that moment I spoke about earlier. This is that moment that you need to stop and say, no, I'm not going to hurry up, I'm going to slow down. And we don't need to be, passing off weapons this fast or loading guns this fast. This is creating an unsafe and nerve-wracking situation, to describe it in more layman's terms. Always on any kind of live training exercise, military training or whatnot, you don't want to put people in a nervous position. That creates, now you can stress, it's a level of stress that's necessary in realism training for military and law enforcement. This is not that. This should be separate and apart from that, and even when that's being done under those circumstances, it's done in a controlled manner. But rushing with firearms and telling someone to rush with firearms is not normal nor accepted.
Okay. And for the purposes of a couple follow-up questions, I want you to assume that that gentleman there in the black with blonde hair is the first assistant director.
Here we go. Come on.
Well, I had to go closer because Danny did, so. You want
We should have had 2 guns, and both were reloading.
No. Okay.
Did you see him just walk away?
I did.
What's your opinion on that?
I don't really know what he was doing in that particular moment. I saw Miss Gutierrez attempting to reload that weapon as fast as she could, of course assuming it's blanks, and we're using the same weapon. She was doing it. It looked like the prop master may have been holding lever action over her shoulder. Not really sure what Mr. Halls was doing.
Okay. Is Mr. Halls the person who's responsible for doing the weapons check with Ms. Gutierrez?
He would be if you were doing it in that particular scene, just reloading blanks to it. It would be a quick, check with the armorer and with the actors. They're loading it to ensure their blanks being loaded. But many times in a situation like that where you're being rushed to that extent, that's when safety starts falling by the wayside.
And could you see, and I can replay the last few seconds of it, where Ms. Gutierrez was getting her dummy rounds?
You could replay it. I didn't.
Let's see. Let me back up a little more.
I forgot to recoil stuff. No, right away. Let's reload. Here we go.
So, Helena, hi.
Here we go. Come on.
Well, I had to go closer because Danny did, so. You want
We should have had 2 guns, and both were reloading.
Okay.
Can you see in the video where she's getting her rounds from?
It looks like she was getting the blank rounds, assuming they're about to fire again, from her fanny pack.
And would that be advisable?
I prefer to operate out of a secured box for my blanks that have been pre-checked prior to. Again, that may be her protocol, operating off. But in my experience, having multiple things in one area together that are not sequestered apart from one another just leans for potential trouble downstream.
Okay. I'm going to go back to State's Exhibit 159. So 159 is the other camera angle of 160, where we can see 160 is where we can see the cameraman on the side. Let's do 159 again now that it has a little more context.
Set, ready, and action.
Could you, in that moment, see the smoke go directly at the camera?
Good.
Frame by frame, please. Oh, that might be more than I can do. Okay. So that shot, when he fires the gun that time, did we see that initial shot from the other camera?
It appears it may be the first one or the second one. I think the second one was the more concerning.
Okay.
Not sure where that started from.
What are we looking at here?
Well, the camera lens has got smoke obscuring it. Cameras can be, relatively tricky when you're viewing it from the angle of the camera and after that. But the better angle on that was the first angle from the first one. But again, it's difficult to see. You just see smoke over the lens.
Having seen the other video, is it your opinion that the smoke that we are seeing right here is from the gun being fired at the camera?
Correct. I mean, the other camera told the story of what occurred there, the more correctly.
Okay.
Big mark.
All right, States Exhibit 161.
No, just,
Yeah?
just.
When you drop your arm, that means he's 10 feet away. I can't see how close he is, but I want to be almost up by the time he gets
No,
here.
I'm gonna go into this.
Yeah.
Well, let me show you something. Hold on. Step back to your original mark. So 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, I'm getting up.
Right.
Then when he drops his arm, Helena get out, he drops his arm, that means Brady's close. I'm going to start to really get up.
Okay.
Do you see anything concerning here?
He's doing what we saw previously in one of the other videos with the stunt performer. He's using the weapon as a pointing stick, as if it's his finger.
And you've seen this video before.
I have.
And what is your understanding about what that gun's loaded with?
It's loaded with probably full flash blanks, but blanks.
Okay. When Mr. Baldwin behaves this way and is using the revolver as a pointer, what is the responsibility on the part of Ms. Gutierrez?
To intercede and correct any unsafe behavior. Now, obviously, again, we're talking about the nuances of doing it. I would start off pulling him aside or talking to him individually and say, if we could, let's be careful with that muzzle. Remember muzzle discipline. I even have a little thing that I talk to when I hand a weapon off to an actor, and it's what I used to say back in the day. I would say control, and the actors would have to repeat the word control to me. And by repetitively doing that, it becomes a mental training technique to teach them that they are now fully in control of that weapon, and their actions while they have it is on them. They are part of that other side of that coin we talked about. If moving past that, I was not getting any result on that, I would have to intercede in this on-camera moment or in rehearsal moment. And then from there, it just depends on whether or not they want to be safe on scene or they want to find somebody else.
Okay. All right, we will go ahead and play from 23 seconds.
Here we go. Let's try
And
it.
everyone
Rolling,
just
rolling.
need to be right here, like in the path of the gun. Could you please move?
Did you hear that?
I did.
Tell us what's going on there.
It sounded like Miss Gutierrez attempting to correct the fact that she knew that Mr. Baldwin was pointing that weapon in an unsafe manner, and she was attempting to move the crew out of the path of where he was pointing it, knowing that it was loaded with blanks.
Is there a problem with attempting to move the crew?
That's the one of the two things that should be occurring. You identify the problem that created the fact that the crew was in an unsafe position, and then you clear out the crew. And she was attempting to, I would assume, not correct Mr. Baldwin, but try to make the crew in a more safe position.
Okay.
It's a quarter, yeah.
Did you hear that?
Check quarter loads, is that what you said?
And do you know whether or not it was actually a quarter load?
I do not know.
Okay. In terms of the timing of Ms. Gutierrez telling, and why don't you give the ladies and gentlemen of the jury an idea of how many people are behind this camera?
So in a particular scene like this, assume they're shooting it with one camera, camera A, okay? Then you're gonna have your sound, you're gonna have your sound mixer, you're gonna have your camera, your DP, director of photography, you're gonna have your first AC, generally a focus puller, first assistant camera, you'll have a second assistant camera. More than likely wardrobe is gonna be on set as well, hair and makeup as well. You could have even PAs on set standing there. So you're looking at anywhere in a scene like this between, 6 and 11 people out there.
Is it
Props,
advisable?
I'm sorry, props, of course. I left props out.
Okay. Is it advisable for Ms. Gutierrez to wait until the last minute to tell the crew to get out of the way?
No, the direction of firing should have been established prior to the scene. Which way is Mr. Baldwin going to point that weapon? Which way is Mr. Baldwin going to discharge that weapon? Where he's going to walk and in what angle is he going to walk? His starting point, his ending point, and you take all of those things into consideration along with the type of load he's firing, and then you move your crew out appropriately.
Okay.
Second, if I'm going to shoot right, do you want to go on the other side of the camera? I don't want to shoot toward you.
Okay, right here.
Okay, well, I'm going to shoot close to you. Here we go.
Set. Here we go. Ready. And action.
Go!
And cut.
Motherfucker.
So, can you give us an idea? Is it important when you're on a movie set and you hear the word cut, is it important that the actors not continue to fire the guns?
Yes. And then when you say cut, everything stops, and it's not just from a creative standpoint, it's also from a safety standpoint. Keep in mind, you're dealing with stunts, special effects, explosives, et cetera, et cetera. So when the word cut is said, everything should cease immediately.
So in this instance where Mr. Baldwin was firing the gun after the word cut, is there anything that you would have done?
I would file that under the category of going, as the old saying goes, off script. He went off script there and fired for whatever reason that I guess he felt he needed to, but I would have probably said something to him about that as well.
Afterwards?
Afterwards.
Okay.
I would have asked him why he did it, and I would have probably phrased it in a way that it was like, is something wrong with the firearm? Did you have it cocked? Was your finger still on the trigger? Why did that extra round go off at the end?
Yeah. Now, obviously, Ms. Gutierrez is not as experienced as you are. Does her lack of experience, in your opinion, change the amount of responsibility she has as the armorer on the movie set?
Once you take, I would like to expound on that a
Sure,
little bit.
move your microphone a little closer if you can, if it will move. Okay.
Once you take on the responsibility of safety for another person, you take on a responsibility of making sure that you do what's necessary, even if it's inconvenient, even if it's not in your best interest. And if that isn't something that you feel capable of doing, then you should never step into that position.